Welcome to Feasibility Mastery, where we unlock the secrets to successful property development. Today, we'll take you through the entire journey, from the initial idea all the way to making investment-grade decisions. This process is all about understanding what makes a project viable and ensuring you have the confidence to move forward with your developments. Let's dive in and explore how to master feasibility in property development for the best outcomes. Feasibility studies are crucial because they allow us to test the reality of a project before significant capital is committed. Think of them as a reality check that helps us avoid costly mistakes later on. One of their main benefits is validating demand early on, before we get locked into land purchases, design plans, or financing arrangements. This early insight helps us make smarter choices from the start. Another key point is identifying risks as soon as possible. By surfacing potential issues upfront, we can keep cost overruns and approval delays within manageable limits. This proactive approach helps maintain project momentum and control expenses. Finally, feasibility studies provide solid evidence that supports our decision-making. This evidence is critical for gaining the trust of investors, lenders, and partners. When we base decisions on thorough analysis rather than guesswork, everyone involved has more confidence in the project's success. All in all, mastering feasibility studies is a powerful way to unlock the secrets to successful property development. When we talk about project feasibility, there are 4 essential pillars that must all be solid for a development to succeed. First, the financial aspect. This involves carefully examining costs, securing funding, managing cash flow, and ensuring there's a strong return on investment before any capital is committed. Without this, the project simply can't move forward. Next, the technical pillar. This confirms that the site is suitable and that the design, infrastructure, and construction plans are actually achievable. If there are technical issues, the project can face major setbacks or even fail. Then we have the market pillar. This is about validating real demand for the project, understanding pricing power, positioning properly, and gauging buyer or tenant interest. Without a clear market need, even the best planned projects can struggle. Finally, the regulatory pillar. This covers zoning, planning permissions, permits, and any compliance risks that could delay or block project approval. Navigating this landscape is crucial to avoid surprises that can stall development. All 4 pillars, financial, technical, market, and regulatory, must hold strong. Together, they unlock the secrets to successful property development and ensure that the project stands on a viable foundation. When we talk about financial feasibility in property development, 3 main cost components demand our attention. First, construction costs typically make up about 55 to 65% of the total project spend, which is the largest share and crucial to manage carefully. Next, land acquisition accounts for roughly 15 to 25% of the budget, and this happens before we even face delivery risks. Finally, there's an essential contingency buffer of around 8 to 12% that helps absorb any uncertainties or unexpected expenses along the way. What really drives the decision to move forward is the balance among these 3 key factors: construction cost intensity, site entry price, and the capital buffer. If these fall out of sync, the project's margin can vanish quickly. These metrics are the pillars that determine if the project is financially feasible, resilient in the face of challenges, and ultimately worth pursuing. Understanding this balance gives us mastery over feasibility and unlocks the real secrets to successful property development. When we talk about development costs, it's crucial to understand the 4 main categories that determine whether a project can move forward successfully. First, there's the land cost, which includes the purchase price, due diligence, and holding costs while the project is being planned. Next, construction costs cover materials, labor, contingencies, and contractor margins. These are often the largest expenses and need careful management. Then, we have permits, which involve approvals, consultant fees, authority charges, and ensuring compliance with regulations. Lastly, financing includes interest payments, lender fees, the structure of equity, and carrying costs. It's important to recognize that cost pressures are always present on site, so tracking every cost driver early on is key to feasibility mastery and unlocking the secrets to successful property development. Understanding market demand is crucial for successful property development. First, strong demand usually becomes visible even before construction starts, so paying attention early can give you a competitive edge. It's important to identify gaps between supply and demand by monitoring vacancy rates, the volume of new projects in the pipeline, and any unmet buyer demand in similar developments. Demographic trends also play a vital role. Tracking factors like population growth, household formation, income levels, and migration patterns helps predict future needs. Rental rate momentum offers insight into whether pricing power is genuine. By observing rent levels, absorption rates, and concession trends, you can gauge market strength. Essentially, the market leaves clear signals about demand, we just need to read them carefully. Mastering these elements unlocks the secrets to feasibility in property development. When conducting a technical site assessment, there are several critical factors we need to thoroughly evaluate to ensure a successful development. First, soil conditions are essential. We must confirm the bearing capacity of the soil, identify any contamination risks, and determine the likely foundation requirements. This gives us a clear understanding of what kind of structural support the site can provide. Next, we look at utilities. It's crucial to test the capacity of power, water, sewer, and stormwater systems before moving forward with the design. Knowing the limitations or availability of these services helps prevent costly adjustments later on. Access is another key consideration. We need to check the road frontage, traffic flow, servicing routes, and emergency entry points to make sure the site is easily accessible and meets safety standards. Environmental factors must also be carefully screened. This includes assessing risks like flooding, noise levels, vegetation preservation, drainage issues, and potential conflicts with adjacent land uses. Lastly, topography plays a significant role. Measuring the slope, levels, and complexity of earthworks required allows us to forecast how these elements might impact the overall project cost and schedule. Remember, buildability truly starts on the ground. Mastering these aspects of technical site assessment unlocks the secrets to successful property development. When we're looking at environmental and regulatory compliance, there are several key factors to keep in mind. First, zoning plays a crucial role. It dictates how the land can be used and what kinds of projects are allowed. Next, building codes set the standards for safety, construction quality, and structural integrity. Then, environmental permits ensure that the project meets all the necessary environmental protections, helping to minimize impact on the local ecosystem. Heritage considerations are also important, especially if the site has historical significance that requires special attention. Remember, without a clear approval path covering all these areas, the project simply cannot move forward. That's why compliance starts early, even before the design is finalized. Mastering these elements is essential to unlock the feasibility of any property development. When we look at a typical development feasibility process, it moves through 5 distinct stages, each designed to sharpen our understanding before we commit any capital. The entire program usually spans between 6 and 12 weeks. We start with the preliminary assessment, which takes about 1 to 2 weeks. This phase gives us an initial sense of the project's viability. Next, we move into the detailed study stage, lasting 2 to 4 weeks, where we dig deeper into the specifics, analyzing all the factors that could impact the development. Following that, there's financial modeling, which takes 1 to 2 weeks. Here, we run the numbers extensively to forecast profitability and identify risks. Then comes the regulatory review, spanning 1 to 3 weeks, where we ensure compliance with all necessary laws and guidelines. Finally, we reach the go/no-go decision phase, which typically takes 2 to 5 days. This is when all the previous insights come together to inform whether we're ready to move forward with the project or not. Each stage builds on the last, progressively refining our insight and reducing uncertainty so that by the time capital is committed, the chances of success are greatly improved. This disciplined approach is what we call feasibility mastery, and it's key to unlocking the secrets of successful property development. Let's walk through the major risks involved in property development and how we can effectively mitigate them. First, market risk. It's crucial to test demand, pricing, and absorption using scenario-based market evidence to ensure the project aligns with real-world conditions. Next, financial risk. We need to stress test costs, funding, and contingencies thoroughly before committing any capital. On the regulatory front, confirming zoning, approvals, and compliance pathways early helps avoid costly delays or complications down the line. Technical risk requires investigating site constraints, servicing options, and buildability from the outset to prevent unexpected challenges. Finally, execution risk. Locking down the project scope, sequencing, and governance structures is key to controlling delivery risk and keeping everything on track. By addressing each of these areas thoughtfully, we can manage risk comprehensively and increase the likelihood of project success. Let's talk about the key red flags that can kill a project before it even gets off the ground. First, insufficient market demand is a major warning sign. If there's no absorption or pricing power, the project won't gain momentum. Next, an unaffordable land cost can crush your margins before you've even started designing. Environmental contamination is another serious risk. The cost and uncertainty of remediation can wipe out both time and return. Zoning restrictions like limits on density, use, or height can destroy the project's economics. Insufficient capital is a fast track to failure. Thin equity and weak debt capacity stall progress almost immediately. Lastly, poor site access affects visibility, ingress, and logistics, which in turn impacts both demand and cost. Keeping an eye on these critical factors is essential to mastering feasibility and ensuring your project's success. Here we have a case study that highlights a successful approach to feasibility and execution in property development. Initially, the mid-rise mixed-use site appeared marginal because high parking costs and weak retail assumptions were squeezing the project's returns. By carefully reworking the unit mix, staging the delivery phases thoughtfully, and right-sizing the commercial space, the project transformed into a financeable opportunity. This led to faster pre-sales and increased confidence from lenders. The key takeaway here is that disciplined scope management, strategic phasing, and aligning the project with market demand significantly improved its viability. Ultimately, this approach resulted in success on both the residential and retail fronts, proving how mastering feasibility can unlock the secrets to effective property development. Here's a case study that really illustrates the critical role of feasibility in property development. Initially, this urban infill site appeared to be a promising investment opportunity. But once a thorough feasibility study was conducted, the real challenges came to light. Planning hurdles like height restrictions and parking requirements, along with delays in approval, significantly reduced the potential yield and increased holding risk. On top of that, rising construction and financing costs pushed the overall development budget beyond what the projected returns could support. Meanwhile, the market itself shifted, absorption rates weakened, incentives needed to be increased, and projected end values fell short of the original business case. Because these warning signs were identified early, the decision was made to stop before committing capital. This wasn't just about avoiding losses, it highlights the true value of feasibility studies. Knowing when not to proceed can be just as important as knowing when to move forward. In this case, despite the site's initial appeal, the deal simply wasn't workable under the conditions revealed. Ignoring these signals would have locked in investment with no clear path to approval or profit. This example underscores why mastering feasibility analysis is essential for smart, successful development. When building a financial model, it's essential to start with the downside first. This means focusing initially on the most conservative or worst-case scenarios. From there, you move through the process of modeling, testing different assumptions, and then making decisions based on those results. To ensure the robustness of your financial models, there are some best practices that we should always keep in mind. First, use conservative assumptions to avoid overestimating potential returns. Next, conduct sensitivity analysis to understand how changes in key variables impact the outcome. Third, develop multiple scenarios to capture a range of possible futures and plan accordingly. Fourth, maintain transparent documentation so that anyone reviewing the model can easily follow your logic and assumptions. Lastly, incorporate peer review, which provides an additional layer of scrutiny and confidence in your numbers. Mastering these practices will unlock vital insights and improve the feasibility and success of your property development projects. Now, let's take a closer look at the pro forma analysis, which highlights the numbers that truly matter in this project. Our projected revenue stands at $42.8 million, while the total costs come to $34.6 million. This leads us to a net profit of $8.2 million. An important figure here is the return on investment, which is a strong 23.7%. This means for every dollar invested, we're expecting nearly a quarter of that back in profit. Understanding these key metrics is crucial for mastering feasibility and unlocking the secrets to successful property development. When it comes to alignment and approvals in a project, it's crucial to understand that every decision-maker views the project through their own unique perspective. We call this the approval logic, answering the right question for the right stakeholder. For investors, the key concern is returns. Will the project deliver the target internal rate of return and margin? The city or planning authorities focus on zoning and impact, so the question becomes, does the project comply with regulations and enhance the area? The construction team looks at feasibility, asking if the project can be built on time and within budget. End users or the market want to know if the product fits their needs. Essentially, is this something people actually want? Lastly, lenders are concerned with security. What measures protect their downside risk and ensure repayment? Mastering these different perspectives is essential to successful property development. Here, we're looking at the essential technology tools that play a critical role in feasibility analysis for property development. First, financial modeling is a cornerstone. It helps us translate assumptions into concrete numbers, making financial outcomes clearer. Tools like Excel and EstateMaster are instrumental here, enabling detailed budgeting and forecasting. Next up is GIS mapping, with software such as ArcGIS and QGIS. These tools allow us to visualize and analyze spatial data, which is crucial for understanding site conditions and location advantages. In addition, 3D visualization software like Revit and SketchUp brings projects to life by creating detailed models, helping stakeholders better grasp the design and scale. Market research tools like CoStar and PriceFinder provide valuable insights into market trends, helping us assess demand and price points accurately. Overall, these data-rich tools are key to transforming assumptions into informed decisions, giving us a mastery over feasibility that unlocks the secrets to successful property development. Let's take a closer look at the key demographic and economic trends that influence market research and ultimately improve feasibility. First, population growth is a major driver, with a 2.8% annual increase over the past 5 years. This rising resident base not only expands absorption potential but also supports larger product mixes, especially in infill and transit-linked locations. Next, median household income within the primary catchment area is $96,000. This income strength plays a crucial role in determining pricing power, rental ceilings, and whether premium amenities or higher-spec finishes are justifiable. Lastly, employment trends show a 4.1% year-over-year job growth. This job creation is a strong signal for household formation, increased office demand, and lender confidence that local demand will persist through project delivery. Overall, measuring these demand signals rather than making assumptions significantly enhances the accuracy of feasibility assessments. Zoning and land use regulations are fundamental constraints that shape every aspect of a development project. The zoning designation dictates what types of buildings are allowed, and any need for rezoning can introduce risks, delays, and added consulting costs. Density limits and height restrictions cap the amount of floor space you can build, directly impacting your potential revenue, the form of your construction, and ultimately, the residual land value. Setback requirements reduce the buildable area, which makes layouts more complicated and can negatively affect parking efficiency or the number of units you can fit on a site. Use restrictions might prevent you from pursuing the most profitable mix of building uses, forcing you to redesign your plans, accept lower rents, or even switch to a completely different product strategy. All these rules can weaken the feasibility of your project before you even start considering construction costs. Understanding and navigating these constraints is key to mastering property development. When we talk about community impact and social license, it's essential to understand how much these factors influence project success. Projects tend to move much faster when local stakeholders see clear benefits, trust the process, and feel their concerns are truly acknowledged. This isn't just a soft issue, it has a direct effect on approvals, the company's reputation, and the risks involved in delivering the project. Without social license, even projects that are technically sound and feasible can come to a halt. Communities want transparency, inclusion, and to see real, visible value in their local area. Meeting these needs is crucial for maintaining momentum and ensuring project feasibility. Here we have the go/no-go decision framework, which serves as the final gateway for disciplined action in our project. The central question we ask is whether the plan passes all pillar tests. If the answer is yes, we proceed confidently into execution, knowing we have a solid foundation. However, if the answer is no, or if there is significant risk detected, we take one of two paths. We either modify the plan by rescoping or de-risking the project and then reassessing, or we reject it outright, stopping before any capital is exposed. This structured approach ensures we make informed, disciplined decisions, reducing unnecessary risk and increasing our chances of success in property development. Now, let's look at some common pitfalls in feasibility studies that can really derail a project. First, over-optimistic assumptions often lead to margins getting squeezed when reality sets in. It's easy to get excited and overlook risks, but that can be costly later on. Second, ignoring market cycles can be a big mistake. If timing slips, demand and pricing might drop, impacting your project's viability. Third, inadequate site investigation is another trap. Hidden constraints can force expensive redesigns that you didn't plan for. Fourth, stakeholder misalignment can cause delays in approvals and lead to scope drifting, which complicates things further. Lastly, delayed decision-making means costs rise, opportunities evaporate, and the feasibility window closes, leaving you with fewer options. Avoiding these mistakes is key to mastering feasibility and ensuring your development stays on track. Let's dive into some important lessons from industry leaders that really shape successful property development. First, great developers depend on discipline, not just optimism. It's not enough to hope for the best. They carefully manage risks and make decisions based on solid planning. Second, the best projects get de-risked early on, well before any significant money is committed. This way, potential issues are identified and addressed upfront, saving time and resources. Third, if the market signal is weak, the smart move is to walk away quickly. It's better to cut losses early than to push forward with a project that doesn't show promise. And finally, winning teams make sure finance, planning, and delivery are all aligned from day one. This kind of alignment keeps everyone moving toward the same goal efficiently and effectively. These insights are crucial for mastering feasibility in property development. When assessing feasibility, it's crucial to go through a comprehensive checklist before committing any capital. This checklist revolves around four main pillars: financial, market, technical, and regulatory. First, on the financial side, we need to validate land and build costs thoroughly, test the terms of debt and equity to understand our funding options, and stress test margins and contingencies to prepare for uncertainties. These steps ensure the numbers really add up and the project can withstand financial pressures. Next is the market pillar. It's essential to have current data on demand, comparable properties, and absorption rates to make sure there's a real appetite for the development. We also need solid evidence on potential exit pricing or rental income to forecast returns accurately. The technical pillar focuses on the physical and logistical aspects. We must fully survey site constraints, confirm access routes, services, and overall buildability. This step guarantees that we can actually develop the site without unexpected obstacles. Finally, the regulatory pillar requires us to confirm that zoning and permitted uses align with our plans, map out the approval pathways and timing carefully, and estimate any environmental obligations. Navigating these regulatory requirements smoothly is key to avoiding costly delays. By diligently working through these 10 must-check questions within these four pillars, we greatly improve our chances of developing a successful, viable property project. Now, let's walk through the critical steps that take a project from study to execution. First, we need to finalize the study by locking in the scope, budget, and delivery strategy. This crucial step usually takes around 2 to 4 weeks. Next, securing capital is essential. We close the debt, equity, and funding conditions, which typically takes between 4 to 8 weeks. After funding is in place, we move on to obtaining permits, converting all necessary approvals into build-ready permissions. This phase can take anywhere from 2 to 6 months, depending on the project complexity. Finally, we begin construction by mobilizing contractors and breaking ground, fully transitioning from a validated plan to an active site. These steps ensure a smooth, strategic progression from feasibility to build, setting the foundation for successful property development. To wrap things up, let's focus on the key takeaways that are crucial for successful property development. First, always start with solid evidence rather than just enthusiasm. This means grounding your decisions in facts and data, not feelings. Second, demand needs to justify every square meter you plan to develop. It's essential that there is a real market need before you commit space and resources. Third, risks are significantly reduced when you thoroughly test costs, approvals, and timing early in the process. This early scrutiny helps avoid surprises down the line. Finally, the best feasibility studies don't just encourage you to build, they protect your capital by telling you when a project just isn't viable. Keeping these points in mind will help you master feasibility and unlock the secrets to successful property development.